Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well. I'm sorry to say that this is another cheery video from me, but again, it's another important chat we need to have. This is something that will likely affect all of us at some point in our lives. The first financial decision you make after inheriting money could cost you tens of thousands of pounds. Not because you'd do anything reckless with it, just because of where that money sits and what it quietly starts doing in the days and weeks after it arrives, while you're focused on everything else that's going on. And before anything else, if you've recently inherited money, I'm sorry for your loss. My thoughts are with you. Whatever the circumstances, this video doesn't start from a place of celebration, and I want to acknowledge that. But there's something practical sitting alongside the emotional side of this, and it's something almost nobody tells you about until it's already happened. The moment that money becomes yours, a different set of tax rules starts applying to it. Rules that have nothing to do with inheritance tax, and everything to do with what you do next. Most people assume the tax question is already answered. The estate pays whatever inheritance tax is due, the money comes to you, and that's the end of it. And for the inheritance itself, that's broadly true. You don't pay income tax on a lump sum you inherit. But the moment that money sits in your name, it starts doing things. It earns interest. It might be sitting in shares that pay dividends or that you decide to sell. From that point on, it's not inheritance anymore. It's just your money, taxed exactly the way the rest of your money is taxed. The order you do things in the weeks and months after it arrives, is that first decision I mentioned, and it's a sequence almost nobody walks you through. I'm Mark, and let's work through it together. Let's start with a bit I usually find puts people's minds at rest, because it's worth being clear. The inheritance itself, the lump sum, the value of a house you inherit, the value of investments, isn't income, and you don't pay income tax on it. If inheritance tax was due, it would have been paid by the estate before anything reached you. So the number that lands in your account, or the value of what you've inherited, is yours. There's also something useful built into how inherited assets are valued for capital gains tax. If you inherit shares, property, or anything that could go up in value, your cost for CGT purposes isn't what the person who died originally paid. It's the value at the date they died. This is sometimes called the CGT uplift, or step up in base cost. Whatever gain built up during their lifetime essentially disappears for tax purposes. If you sell shortly after inheriting, close to that probate value, there's often little or no gain to tax at all. This is normally the point where people realize the inheritance wasn't the end of the planning. It was actually the beginning. From the moment you inherit, anything that money or those assets generate is yours, in the current tax year, taxed at your rate. Inherited cash sitting in savings generates interest, and if you're already a higher or additional rate taxpayer, that's taxed at 40 or 45%, with very little tax-free savings allowance to offset it. Inherited shares pay dividends, taxed at your dividend rate. And if the inheritance is large enough that the income it generates pushes your adjusted net income over 100,000, or back over 60,000 if you have children, you're suddenly back in the same territory the rest of this series has been about. Except this time, the income wasn't a pay rise you negotiated. It's just sitting there, generated by money that arrived all at once, often without anyone thinking about where to put it. So here's the sequence I'd actually think through, roughly in this order. First, don't do anything with all of it immediately. Inheritances often arrive at an emotionally difficult time, and the financial industry is very good at appearing helpful in exactly those moments. Park it somewhere safe, an easy access account or a cash ISA if you've got allowance left, while you think. There's no tax penalty for taking a few weeks to plan properly. Second, the ISA allowance. £20,000 per person per tax year, completely tax-free for growth and income forever. If you're married or in a civil partnership, that's potentially £40,000 a year between you, sheltered from any future tax on growth or income. If the inheritance is large, you're not going to shelter all of it in one go, but spreading the allocation across this tax year and the next can shelter £80,000 across a couple, just through ISA allowances, without doing anything complicated at all. Third, and this is often the biggest lever, pension contributions. If you're a higher or additional rate taxpayer and you've got unused pension annual allowance from this year or carried forward from the previous 3 years, using inherited cash to make a personal pension contribution converts money that would otherwise sit generating taxable income into money that gets tax relief going in, grows tax-free, and is only partially taxed on the way out, years from now. For someone paying 45% tax, a contribution effectively costs 55 pence for every pound that lands in the pension. That's before any growth at all. And fourth, if part of your reason for thinking about this inheritance is what happens to it eventually, rather than just what to do with it now, there's something called a deed of variation. Within 2 years of the death, beneficiaries can redirect some or all of what they've inherited to other family members or into a trust, and for tax purposes, it's treated as if the person who died had left it that way originally. It's most commonly used where the inheritance pushes the beneficiary's own estate into inheritance tax territory, and redirecting part of it, say to grandchildren or for school fees for the next generation, keeps it out of that calculation entirely. The window is 2 years. After that, it's gone, and whatever you do with the money is just a gift from you, with all of the normal gifting rules and the 7-year clock that come with that. Let me show you what this looks like with someone real. I'll call her Priya. Priya's father passes away and she inherits £300,000, partly cash, partly a share portfolio that's grown significantly over decades. She's an additional rate taxpayer, married, 2 young children, household income already comfortably over the child benefit threshold. The instinctive thing to do, and what a lot of people do, is open a general investment account, put it all in, and let it grow. Within a year, that account is generating maybe £9,000 or £10,000 in dividends and interest. All of that gets added to Priya's income, taxed at 45%. She's lost roughly £4,500 in tax on income she didn't need, didn't ask for, and in many cases, didn't even notice arriving. Now the structured version. In the first few weeks, Priya and her husband park the cash in easy access savings while they plan. Over the following months, both ISA allowances used. £40,000 sheltered immediately, another £40,000 earmarked for the new tax year a few months later. Priya makes a pension contribution using carry forward from the previous 3 years. £100,000 goes into her pension, costing her £55,000 after tax relief. The inherited share portfolio, thanks to the CGT uplift, can be sold close to probate value with minimal gain, funding the ISA and pension contributions without triggering a CGT bill on her father's lifetime of growth. Same £300,000. One version generates an ongoing tax drag of several £1,000s a year, indefinitely. The other shelters the vast majority of it within 12 months, with £45,000 of tax relief claimed back into the pension alone, on top of everything sitting in ISAs, growing tax-free from day one. The thing about inherited money is that it doesn't come with a label that says, "Handle with care, tax implications inside." It just arrives, often during one of the harder periods of someone's life, and the assumption, understandably, is that the hard part is over. But financially, the moment it arrives is the start of a decision window, not the end of one. And the size of that window and what's possible within it depends entirely on whether you know it's there. If you've recently inherited money, or you're likely to in the next year or two, here's what I'd actually do. 1. Don't rush. Park it. Give yourself a few weeks and have the planning conversation before the money starts generating income that's hard to unwind. 2. Map out your ISA and pension allowances, including carry forward, for both you and your spouse if you have one. This is very likely the single biggest lever available to you. 3. If part of your thinking is about what happens to this money eventually, not just now, look at whether a deed of variation makes sense. But remember, that's a 2-year window from the date of death, and it doesn't wait for you to feel ready. I hope you found our chat useful today. If you've got a question or there's something you'd like me to cover in a future video, leave a comment below. I'll do my best to help. If you found this useful, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to my channel. In the next video, we're looking at a completely different kind of decision: buying a second property. The headline numbers people talk about almost never include the tax position underneath them. And at this income level, that gap can be the difference between a good investment and a mediocre one. Until next time, take care.